differentiation between us and the very tough and emerging competition. And so the first of the Walker strategies is to create and promote programs that involve and integrate disciplines. And you'll see here just the bullet points here: develop curricula and degree programs that are responsive to market needs. This last Wednesday, I had the opportunity to visit Kansas City. And in my visit to Kansas City, I visited amongst the 4 places that I talked to, 2 institutions really kind of resonated with me. One was St. Luke's Healthcare, which is one of the largest medical healthcare systems in Kansas City. And the other one was Hallmark, the card makers. And I had the chance to sit down with the 2 Hall brothers who took over the company from their dad. And one of the key questions I asked them was essentially, how are you doing? And I asked the question because I know how they're doing. I know the kind of challenges that they're facing within their organization, because here you had a card maker that is now becoming irrelevant because folks don't send cards anymore. And so the question is, what are they doing to make sure that they don't become irrelevant? Because my friends, irrelevancy is worse than death. When you become irrelevant, you get to watch everything that you build. You get to watch everything that you've done gradually dissipate, go away, be stolen away from you by competition while you're still around. And a lot of organizations today have become irrelevant and they don't even know it. And what we're not going to become within the Walker School, and by extension Webster University, is to become irrelevant. And so clearly we have to be proactive, and that's why we talk about these radical changes that needs to be made. And I think for us to do that, we will have to institute well-documented systems and processes that will allow us to be able to stay ahead of the curve. Second, foster collaboration with partners. We believe that the future cannot be won alone. That we're going to have to identify major brand name partners that we can collaborate with to develop programs, to revise our programs. And these will be significant partners that will be tied to every single one of our programs. What I envision in post-2015 is that every single one of our programs will have organizational partners. And like medical schools, where they would work with institutions, we will work with organizations to make sure that our programs are validated, that they're rubber stamped by significant partners in the field. And what that does for us, it'll make sure that we're keeping up with the trends, and we're thinking ahead of those trends. And I'll give you an example, for instance. I would like to see our procurement program align with a major governmental or corporate partner. I'd like to see our Masters in Health Administration align with the likes of a major health provider in the United States. And so when we talk about being relevant, those are distinctives that we believe are critical for us to put in place. And so we're going to go on a search and find mission to find those partners and to work with those partners. And we'll start doing some pilot testing in that will be announced fairly soon. 3, ensure greater global awareness among our students. I have to tell you, I believe one of Webster's competitive advantage, and the way I define competitive advantage, what we do that nobody else can do, even if they wanted to. Simple. That's my definition of competitive advantage. One of our competitive advantages as an institution is our global landscape. We've been there for 30, 40 years, but we haven't harnessed it. We haven't taken advantage of it. And as a business school that is represented in every single one of our campuses, it's time. And yet people tell me, well, Benjamin, the folks in Fort Sill, Lawton don't give a darn about going international. They remind me that the folks in Little Rock, Arkansas don't care about having any international exposure. I say to them, the reason why they don't care is because we have not highlighted its importance and its value to them. And that if we do a good job in highlighting that, we would attract different students, but more importantly, the ones we have will have a value added for it. And so clearly, this particular goal of awareness, both for our faculty, both for our students, is critical. And that's why when we created the hybrid program a couple of years ago at Webster, that was the distinctive, to allow our students to be able to go to different parts of the world in a very defined period of time, so that they can, and then to be immersed in the business practices and the culture while they're there. And then they said, well, how about affordability? So we created the Walker Fund, $1,000. All you need to tell us is that you participate in this program, we write you a check to enable you to be able to get there. And yet, so what we've done with that is that we've created opportunities to do that, but we haven't gotten the kind of reaction and participation that we want out of it. And so we hope to take that to a whole different level in this Walker strategies. Number 4, attract, hire, develop, and retain extraordinary faculty. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the very heart and soul of who we are as an institution. And we believe that if we attract, if we can retain, if we can also collaborate with the ones who are faculty in a very meaningful way, we can basically own this particular sector. And basically, we think that this is a very important strategic imperative for us. And the way we hope to do this is to bring in, to foster more collaboration among us, and also to bring in new players that would challenge us, that would work with us in creating new curriculum and looking at what already exists. I think this one directly impacts you in this room. And to give you a voice, that we want to hear your perspective. We want you to challenge us like you've never done before. And so clearly that will be an important attribute for us to look at. 5, and this one is really special to me, and we call it the Webster Walker experience. And for us, we want to develop what we call the promise. And that is what we're going to tell our students, that when they come to us, this is what we will deliver to them. And that is a promise that we will keep. And that is a promise that is not a promise that is sort of low-hanging fruit. It is a promise that says that we will challenge you, we will prepare you, we will enable you to do things that you probably never thought you could do. And at the end of your stay with us, you will be better than when you came in. And because we're going to measure it, we're going to assess that, just like we assess every one of our programs. And what that means there is that we've got to create that very carefully. And what we're hearing with the consultants that we've talked to when it comes to creating a promise is that you've got to look clearly at not just creating promises that you can't fulfill, but promises that highlight who you are. And for us, that will become the face of the Walker School. And so essentially, in developing that promise, we're going to be engaging you as well as our students as well. And then lastly, you can't do it without resources. And that's something that we will really ramp up in the many years to come. And these are the areas where we think are critical areas that we would need to raise money to be able to make it happen. And the good thing about that is that we have relationships, and we are participants in the sector. Through many of you adjuncts are in critical organizations that have the resources that can help us. And when we partner with those organizations, there's more inclination for them to invest in us. And so we really believe that will be a critical part of our future. And I like this particular graph here, because what it does is it takes the university goals, it takes the Walker strategies, and what it demonstrates is complete alignment. Complete alignment. Moving us forward in those particular areas. All right, real quick report about some of the other things that are going on. Quality assurance and accreditation maintenance. We had our biannual ACBSB review. It was submitted in 2012, reviewed in November 2012 by ACBSB. They came back to us, and our report was accepted, which means that we are in line, and we have met all and exceeded all their requirements, and they provided us with very significant positive feedback. So that was really good news to get that back just last month. Some of the positive feedback that they gave us was that they recognized increased publications and presentations among our faculty. And as you know, every year you do that report where you go into the system and you update us about the various things that you're doing in the field and also professionally. another first for us at Webster. We were the first to really to put this in place so that we can recognize and honor our faculty accomplishments and activities. That has become a major plus for us to report out in terms of the fact that our faculty is just not teaching, but they're also accomplishing their own rights in different things from the professional perspective. And we've defined our student learning outcomes and assessment plan for all programs in the Walker School across the world at Webster, which is a significant project for us, but that we've created the technologies that's enabled us to be able to do that. Again, another best practice. And then, of course, we've utilized CAPSIM for the MBA assessment program. In fact, we now have a partnership with CAPSIM out of Chicago that allows us now to be able to really embed this wonderful project where you get to run, I think, was it a $100 million company, and you compete against each other. CAPSIM has essentially also made some modifications to their capstone because we've asked for them to incorporate ethics, to incorporate more international orientation for the CAPSIM, and then we've signed a longer commitment with CAPSIM that would allow us to continue to work with them in the very long-term future. And then one of the things that are coming to you very soon is we're going to go paperless when it comes to evaluation, faculty evaluation. What we have right now is labor intensive, it's difficult to analyze, difficult to add or remove edits or questions regularly. So we're saying bye-bye to the normal process of doing it by paper, and we're going to introduce the electronic format. And we have actually benchmarked against some of the top business schools in the country, and we think that this process will actually help us to be able to gather information about what faculty activities are, but more importantly, to be able to use that information to make adjustments when necessary. And so what we're doing is in the summer of 2012, Webster deployed what we call the TK20, which is an assessment management software, and it also contains an online course evaluation model that we're going to use. And so we piloted this model in this last fall, in fall 2, and currently we're reviewing the information that we've received from that pilot. And so what we hope to do is basically this. Based on this pilot, what we heard is that it's easy to create and modify. There were no issues with students completing the survey, and it gave us opportunity to be able to extract some results that we think is going to lead to adjustments in our curriculum. So just wanted to forecast that you're going to see a new student evaluation, a faculty evaluation system coming to you fairly soon. Our expanded pilot was Spring 1, St. Louis, Orlando, Thailand, and then of course to be expanded in Spring 2 to include all the international locations, and also I think we're talking to Dean about doing some things there as well in the DC area. Our full projection on this is that by fall 2013, we're going paperless, and that's going to impact 13,000 students, and we'll kind of see where that takes us. But it's very exciting for us. Academic updates. These 4 programs kicked off in 2012, 2013. The MBA track. When we had a global MBA program that took about 15 students around the world for 1 year. But then we realized something, that the world of Webster, for us, the majority of our students are non-traditional age students. They're non-traditionals. They're working. They can't travel for an extended period of time and take off a year and go away. And so we learned from that process, and then we adjusted our MBA track to be an MBA program that can be offered at every one of our campuses. But most importantly now, we've introduced this global track that allows our students to be able to participate in hybrids. And the hybrid courses are basically 6 weeks online, 1 week at an international location. And what we've done with that is that we've now created a level of flexibility that allows our students to get that international immersion. And so that's the MBA global track. And by the way, on your way out, I have a couple of things that I've left on the table there. One of them is Nota Bene, which is our magazine for the business school. It's an annual publication where we tell the story, we highlight adjunct faculty, we highlight our students. And it's a very important It's a very important publication for us because, like all business schools in the world, we believe that it's important to engage that very important audience, which is our faculty and our alumni. And at Webster, we have 100,000 of those alumni that are from the business school. And so I want you to pick up a copy on your way out. Also, for you to also get a copy of our new Masters in Nonprofit Leadership, the program that I told Sean I hope to be able to offer here when we have the space. And I think it's going to be exciting there, so you can pick up information on that. And also the global track. I hope you can pick that up on your way out. So these are new programs. We've also introduced the BS in Mobile Computing, which essentially is an undergraduate sort of next practice program for us. The Walker Hybrids, I want to report on this real quick. 1,000 scholarships to support international travel by students. We started this program with a 250,000 campaign that we did to raise money to see what kind of interest exists. There was a conversation with George Herbert Walker about trying to create something that would enable our students to be able to go overseas. Now that we're getting much more interest, we're going to have to raise about $1 million to be able to endow this. And I like those kind of challenges, I have to tell you, because it's a direct response to the fact that our students are reacting to it. And so as dean, it's much easier for me to go out there and engage individuals and companies when you have those kind of success to report. And in essence, what we found there is that our extended campuses participation has gone from 47% last year to 82% this year. I mean, that's what you want. That delta is important, and about 75% of them are graduate students. We've seen even international campuses really get on board, and for us, just to give you an example, there's a course coming up in New York City that basically spends a week in Wall Street that takes you through the very intricate process of how that very important part of America operates. And we've identified 6 or 7 organizations and individuals that will speak to the group and will engage them while they're in Wall Street. And it's a course that's being taught by one of our adjuncts, Rich Rifle. And so it's coming up from New York City, I believe later on this summer. And it's just one example of one of the hybrids that we think it's going to basically define us as we move into the future. And then let me go back real quick to this here. We really would like to see more of our adjunct faculty help us develop these hybrids. That's the only way it's going to work. And so you're going to be receiving an RFP very soon, asking for your ideas on developing these hybrids. And I hope that you'll take advantage of it. We just got a hybrid that just got back from Rio de Janeiro this last week, and it was focused on sustainability and the business of sustainability. As you know, Brazil is one of the world leaders in this particular area, and this particular course was taught by one of our adjunct faculty, who's also from Brazil. So those are the ideas that we're seeing moving forward. New academic programs beginning in 2013, 2014. When they talk about the fact that we're market responsive, this is just a very simple example of that. The BA in Management, online degree completion, will go on board this summer. The BA in Business Intelligence Technology will also go on board this summer. And also the Sport Business track, an undergraduate entrepreneurship certificate, will be added beginning this coming fall. Just a snippet of what's coming your way from the Walker School. This is talking about those worldwide faculty RFPs that's going out, and this figure here, 63.6% of the courses that we're teaching in the hybrid are being taught by our adjuncts worldwide. I think that's a very impressive number, and it also shows that we're getting some really great course developments coming out of that. The concourse, Gene talked a little bit about the concourse, which we used to call the Consistency Project. This, for us, is the 3rd generation in our concourse. 7 years ago, we did consistency, and over the years, we've sort of improved it. And this is what I call quality assurance. This is to tell our creditors, this is to tell our students, this is to tell our competition, this is to tell the organizations that are supporting our students that we can validate quality consistency across the world at Western. that if you take in managerial economics in Washington, you can be assured the same quality of managerial economics in Vienna. The complexity of that, the ability to assure that is something that we've put in place. And we're very excited about it because it defines us and it speaks to how important we consider quality initiatives. And so that's my brief review, and I want to take some questions from you and comments on the things that I've said and that you may have for me. Questions? Yes, sir.
Benjamin, could you go back to your slide for a moment that said strategic intent? I'm just wondering, I don't teach any courses in business school, so this is an outsider's question. And you described a lot of exciting ideas and programs. But I was reading this list as you had that up, and it implies, or perhaps you'll win it this way, a fair amount of dissatisfaction with what is being done now. And I was wondering if that's a constructive thought and whether you have any comments on that.
Well, good question. I don't. What we have done in our strategic conversation is not for people to pat us on the back and to say you guys are wonderful. We didn't put those things out there. We got a lot of that. That we've done well in many areas. Procurement is one of the areas where we've had significant growth. Programs that at some point was not on our radar. There is no dissatisfaction. What we're asking is people are asking us to really be bolder in our initiative and not to rest in our laurels. And as a leader, I think that for me is very important. And they're asking us to be even more radical in our perspective. And you know, radicalism runs deep in Webster's blood. When we were one of the first ones to go extend the campus system wide. We were the first ones to get engaged in the military. We were the first ones to try international. The first ones to start to go with 8 weeks and 9 weeks compressed curriculum. And so they're saying there that we were radical, we were disruptors for a long time, and now we're being disrupted. And basically saying that as we move in terms of our strategy into the future, we need to be even more disruptive. And I think that is a good sign for us. That is a challenge to us. And that's how I see the strategic intent. Questions? Yes, sir.
When you showed the slide that had the 29% military composition, and you mentioned about Webster's tuition assistance augmentation program, it occurred to me, not a day goes by that I don't hear on the news show a criticism of the DOD for suspending the tuition assistance program. Just this morning, I heard a comparison of that to the money that's being spent to make the prison that the terrorists are being held down in. Why can we spend that money when we have to do such things as suspend tuition assistance? Have we gotten that word out? You know, literally every day on Fox, I hear somebody complain about tuition assistance being suspended. And it seems like this is a huge thing that Webster's doing.
It is, and I think Bob will probably speak to that when she visits. But I think we've done a good job in getting the word out. We have to be very careful, because so that we will not be accused of being self-serving. But we've been very clear that we within days of this thing being announced, Webster responded, and we put in place a plan that would address students now, and basically indicated that depending on what we see in the future, we will adjust accordingly. It was a bold move, and we didn't check the temperature to see what everybody else was doing. We were leading from the front on this one, and it's costing Webster to do it. But essentially, we believe that it is a strategic imperative, and that if we did not respond, we would have been irresponsible. But our leadership got it and understood the importance of this, and I think we did a release that was picked up by significant publications around the United States and around the world, and we got reports back from the military campuses that it's been a real, it's really helped to define where we are as an institution. But what is important now is to start thinking ahead. What may happen? And to start building scenarios into, if this thing persists, what do we do? And if it adjusts, what do we do? So that we wouldn't be caught flat-footed. And I think that's going to be the meaningful conversation that we have to make. And I'll also indicate this. One of the things that we're also looking into right now is a new strategy for first responders. We've been very successful with the military. But what we now want to move into is with first responders, sort of the domestic military side of sorts, police chiefs, fire chiefs, the fire departments. And we think that we can provide for them what we've done for the military. But before we start sort of laying out this strategy, we're having this series of conversations with police chiefs around the country. We've identified 6 pilot cities where we're going to have discussions with them to see how we can partner with first responders. We think that this is a real opportunity for us as an institution, and we hope to try sort of take advantage of our strength in working with the military and having it transfer over to first responders. And so those are ongoing conversations.
Yes, sir. I noticed previous slide you talked about radical implementation, and then we look at the slide that you were just on regarding tuition assistance. I wonder where Walker and Webster would be if they were to create a contract with those who cannot afford but will be able to afford after they complete the course. In other words, we'll give you the education, you sign a contract, you will pay. That's investing.
That's radical. But you know what? But that is also investing in the future of individuals that say, I can't afford to pay. I mean, Harvard does it. If you can't afford to pay, they find a way you can show that you don't have the financial capacity. You get a chance to come to that institution for free. The key is getting in. But I think clearly we're open. And I want to say to you all this afternoon, whatever ideas that you have, and if those ideas even challenge the status quo, I want to hear from you. I want to hear from you because these ideas could become the foundation of the new Webster. And don't hesitate to challenge what we're doing. I just ask that when you do challenge what we're doing, that perhaps you can offer us another way, suggestions on another avenue that we can take. We really, really want to hear from you. And that's very important to us. Yes, sir.
In your discussion about being market responsive, do you have a rapid response capability? I remember a few years ago when NSA captured the cyber warfare leadership, the University of Maryland developed a really high impact cybersecurity master's program and promoted it heavily and achieved a lot of market share. But for example, now as sequestration hits, having the capability to create a set of courses in managing for sequestration, having that kind of rapid response capability would position Webster in that particular issue where there are a lot of questions. Do you have that kind of capability?
Well, I think we're developing it. We're not there yet. And I'll give you an example. Last week, the faculty of the management department, working with the associate vice president of strategy, Tom Johnson, approved the cybersecurity master's program. It would have not happened otherwise. And if it did happen, it would have happened maybe next year or the year after. Because any curriculum at Webster has to be designed and approved by faculty and championed by faculty of the school and then taken forward to graduate council. We're not done yet. It has to now go to graduate council. Okay? But if he doesn't have a champion, it can't be done. We responded to that call within 2 months. Once we got it in, and then we basically got a champion in Al Marcella, working with Tom Johnson, we took it through the management department and had it done, completed, moving forward. But I don't think we're there yet. And so the things that you identifying from right now in terms of being able to react to the sequester and the opportunities that it present, I would like a full-blown white paper as to what that idea entails and be able to run that through my faculty But most importantly, we want to be able to then check it against our strategic plan. Does this align with where we want to go? Does it align with our strength area? Do we have champions within the institution that can help us move forward? And once we identify that, we have to be able to, we have the system in place to be able to move rapidly. And so clearly, that's an area of distinction that we will need to create moving forward. Let me take one more question or so, and then I'll let you all to have the break. Yes, sir.
Yeah, just going through, jotting down some information, and going back with all of our successes. I'm really shocked that Webster has not exploited the West Coast. We focused a lot on the NCR, because this is where the center of all the procurement is. Did you know that in San Diego, Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Seattle, which happens to be Boeing, McDonnell Douglas,
Sure.
Northrop Grumman, the military, very heavy with the military, they have no procurement graduate programs out there to speak of, none. They all seem to be concentrated, all centralized here in the East NCR. And so I'm kind of shocked you guys have not looked at that.
We've looked, but the challenge about getting into the West Coast is that, for instance, you can't get into a military base without going through the normal application process, which comes up every 5 years. And in cases, we've actually had to close down a couple of our metro campuses in the West Coast because they were just, we were offering procurement, we were offering security, organizational management. There were no students. And so we have to be sensitive to that aspect. And I think for us, though, I think moving forward is to develop the kind of programs that we think that there's sufficient demand in the West Coast. And I think security offers us an opportunity to be able to do some things in that area. And more importantly, we're also looking at what I call the click and brick delivery methodology. And that is not to require students to just come to our classroom, but to also be able to deliver the same quality program online. And so any new program that we're looking right now will be delivered both face-to-face and also online, and be able to do that simultaneously. And so that's where we're moving, because when you move into a particular area, it takes significant amount of resource investments. And there are limited resources that we have. And so we have to be very strategic as to where we place those investments. And I think that cautious sort of strategy is very relevant to us moving forward.
But see, what I just heard, the one thing that I heard is we're talking about military installations.
Yeah.
Boeing, right there in
And metro campuses.
Okay, yeah, in Renton, Washington, okay?
Yeah.
They've got 4 buildings full of procurement people. 4 buildings.
We are engaged with Boeing.
Okay, yeah.
We do about $2 million in tuition from Boeing every year. We have a Boeing sort of a corporate arrangement with Boeing where we allow their employees to be able to take Webster programs online and face-to-face at a significant tuition discount. And so there's about 10 other institutions as well. But and we continue to push that. We continue to have a conversation with Boeing. Clearly understood, we need to do more, and we will. I think there's just some challenges that we face, and we got to build the systems to be able to overcome it. Let me take one more question. I think I've gone way behind. Way back there, sir.
Is there any discussion about taking the Doctor of Management from off campus to the satellite campuses? Because a lot of students have an interest in doctorate programs and they'd rather go to Webster.
I hear you. I'm going to tell you that has been a failing of this dean. I have not been able to persuade my faculty of the value of taking it out of St. Louis. I understand that from an accreditation perspective, we were accredited because we told them that it would be a St. Louis program, and that if we had to take it outside of St. Louis, we would have to go through a comprehensive re-accreditation of the doctorate in management program. I think that's what's scaring them. I think that's what they don't want to spend 3 years doing that. But the reality is, the doctorate in management program is going to die a very quick death if we expect that everybody comes to St. Louis. We have even floated the idea of offering it strictly on military sites and just sort of identifying 2 or 3 military sites around the country and offering it as a weekend program. Or maybe an online face-to-face click and break combination. But we have a new director of the doctorate management program right now, JP Palmer. And JP's got some really interesting ideas to move us beyond where we are. And so I can say, as part of our strategy moving forward, you're going to see some movements and some changes taking place in our doctorate in management program. We've got to keep up with what the market is telling us. Right now, what we're doing, we're not doing it. One more question back there. I think I have another question back there. Okay, are we good? Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Before we send everybody up.